Anthony Grassi for NAIA.ticker here at the Women Leaders in Sports National Convention. Happy to sit down today for another small college conversation with Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes, the Commissioner of the HBCU Athletic Conference. Dr. Baker Barnes, thank you for joining me.
I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you here. We'll start with some accolades. You have been named NAIA Rising Leader of the Year. What does that mean for you as a leader in this space, as a leader in equity and diversity? What does that mean for you?
I will say I am truly honored, humbled by the acknowledgement. This is the first time they're awarding. This is a new award that they've established. And, we've done some really good work. I have some great colleagues at the NAIA who were part of the inaugural RISE committee. Lori Thomas, Meg Shebler, Ted Breitenthal, Rob Cashel. I think that was our crew. Me, there may be somebody else, and if I'm forgetting, y'all, please forgive me. But we sat down together and we've worked really hard to do some great things to continue to ensure that inclusivity is a part of what we do at the NAIA. And so, golly, to get the first award is like crazy. But I'm super, super grateful and humbled for the honor, and look forward to celebrating with my colleagues in April.
So, as we sit here right now, I want to start with some of the leadership transitions you've had through your career. We were talking earlier. Some of the transitions have been, I imagine, chaotic while you're in them. Transitioning from women's basketball coach to AD, or from assistant coach to head coach to also serving as AD, then just as the AD, then AD to interim commissioner, then GCAC, and now sitting as just the commissioner of the HBCUAC.
Yeah.
How, I guess we can start with how chaotic those periods of time were and how you kind of managed your way through them, but more importantly, kind of what benefits did each of those transition periods have in you succeeding in the next role?
Yeah. Well, I think, I learned how to juggle a lot of
I can only imagine.
Lot of hats at one time. I think for a person who has the number of skills that I had, I think it was perfect for me because I like to do a lot of things. I did not see them as challenges initially. I thought this was the way it was supposed to be. So when I started as a graduate assistant, I was running the summer camps, I was running the ball girl program, I was on the road recruiting, I was setting up, I did all of the on-campus visits. I got to do some player development, so they allowed me to do some of that with the student athletes. But it was having the opportunity to be exposed to all of those elements of building a program that prepared me to be a head coach. Like how can you be a head coach when you don't have the exposure?
You don't have the foundation.
Yeah. And so having the opportunity to see all the different elements, and some of them I had the opportunity, of course, to lead. But also connecting with my other colleagues. I think that's the other part. Connecting with the other graduate assistants and assistant coaches, seeing how they're doing things. Getting on the road and recruiting allowed me to build network. You can't move in the industry when you don't have a network. Well, I'm on the road and we're all recruiting a really good kids. You're going to have 4 or 5 coaches sitting there with you, right? So that was the opportunity for me to build relationships that I feel like contributed to my opportunity to continue to move and kind of climb the ladder of success in the career. So it was a lot of fun. I would say I was 21 years old. I mean, I had a lot of energy. And I felt like I did what needed to be done to be prepared. And so while it may have appeared a little chaotic, it was definitely what was necessary to be able to move and to be able to walk into those positions at such a young age.
How beneficial were they in preparing you for the next one? Obviously, you'll have some reps at it by the time you get just that role. But I imagine the ability to learn and potentially fail and to kind of go back to your network and say, hey, this is the challenge that I had. Or, hey, I think I made this mistake here. Yeah. How did you go about doing this before you have all of that on your plate?
Yeah, well, let me tell you this. What it did was it helped me develop confidence. See, the thing that people, at least the thing that I see, and when I'm just talking to, again, young women who are looking to move up, they may actually have the skill, but they don't have the confidence. And you can only build confidence by actually doing it and messing it up and then trying again. Having someone who can say, hey, maybe you should think about this, or to help you reflect on how well something went, or maybe it didn't go so well. All of those things helped me to develop the confidence to believe that at 25, I could really be the head coach, not of one program, but of 3 programs. I was head coach of basketball, cheer, and dance. And so when I think about impact and what it meant, like how those experiences prepared me, it gave me the confidence to believe that I could actually get the job done. So you got to have confidence.
How did you, you mentioned giving people the opportunity to have those reps.
Yeah.
How did you identify the people that were maybe ready to take those reps when they may not have felt ready themselves? Think about maybe when you were the AD at Dillard.
Yeah.
Or taking some of the baby steps to prepare
Yeah.
people to take some of those larger steps down the line.
Well, part of that is removing away fear. So one of the things that I would talk to when I talk to young people who wanted to work with me, I was like, here's what I need from you. We're going to get along very well if you will just give everything you have. You don't have to be right, but you've got to have the right mindset, and you've got to be willing to try. If you're willing to do that, then I am going to support you. I'm going to be your best advocate. So what does support look like? And I had to define that, because I would say there's a generation of students that think criticism is not support. It's hate. You're hating on me. I'm like, well, no, I'm actually here to help you be your best. And part of me serving you well is actually saying, hey, here's something you can think about. Here's a better way to consider doing this. And so I said, so one, you've got to be willing to hear critique. That is a very critical element of this. I cannot help you be the best person you can be or help you achieve your goal if I cannot critique you. So number one, you have to be prepared for that. And understand that critique doesn't mean you're going to lose your job. It means that let's explore what we set out to do. Did we achieve that goal? Could we have done a better job? Like, could the outcome have been better? And if it has been, okay, let's come back and let's do it again. And let's implement what we said we thought we could do. And let's see if we can do it even better. And so so I was able to identify young people because I moved the fear away. Like, you're not going to lose your job. You're not going to lose your internship. Like, there's nothing you could do other than, unless it's unethical or illegal, that would have you be removed from this internship. So at this point, it's like, so I can be as creative as I want. You can be as creative as you want to be. What I want is for you to bring your full self, and let's work from there. And that was the way I was able to work with young people and help them get to the best of kind of where they were trying to be. I mean, with some of the young people, they came in with one idea. I think I want to be a sportscaster, and then they started having to do video. I was like, I don't want to do this. So we also were able to eliminate things that may not be in alignment. And I was like, but here's what you're doing really well. How about looking at this lane? So it was so much fun because I feel like I was able to work with young people in the way we are when we're kids, when we're first born, maybe from kindergarten through about 6 years old. There's really no limits. We don't think there are limits. We're not scared of anything. Yeah. We fall, we get back up, and we laugh about it. And nobody's canceling our life because, oh my gosh, I made one mistake. Trying to create that kind of atmosphere for young people and people who are looking to grow is really critical. And so I will say I was the beneficiary. Like, when I think about my career, I cannot say I'm here if it wasn't for young people who I worked with, because I didn't have a large staff. Mm-hmm. But I had young people who were willing to just, okay, we don't have all the answers, but if you're willing not to be scared, and I'm willing not to be scared, and we're going to try every idea out of the book, and let's see if we can make it work. Oh my God, what can we accomplish when we're not afraid of the outcome? And so what I'll say is we achieved great things because none of us were really afraid. We were just all having a good time, learning more about ourselves and learning what we were able to do in building capacity. Like, oh, I didn't know I could do that, but now I can do this. I have this skill now. And I will tell you, for those that I had the opportunity to mentor and work with, like, I am their biggest advocate. Anytime I could call their name in a room, I could recommend them for an opportunity, do it in a heartbeat.
Have you you mentioned the ability to receive feedback well is something that you've
Critical.
had to maybe educate younger people about. Have you changed how you deliver that feedback over time? And I guess tied to that, where did the idea for where did you figure out, basically, I guess?
When did I figure it
that,
out?
Not even just that. I imagine that was very apparent. The key to kind of unlocking somebody's potential was removing that fear. Because it seems obvious, but that comes from somewhere.
Honestly, I believe it comes from what makes me thrive. So I would always be thinking about, well, what was I thinking when I graduated from college at 21 and then became a graduate assistant basketball coach? I remember thinking I knew a whole lot. I didn't know a whole lot, but I really believed that I knew a lot. And so I really would reflect on, okay, what were the things? How did I feel at that age? What was I looking for from those who were my elders or my head coach or athletic director? What were the things that I wanted that I didn't get? What were the things that I got that I really didn't need? And trying to figure out my pathway. Now that I'm the person in charge, I remember what was good. I remember what was bad, and now I am going to forge a new path for helping young people based on that feedback. So honestly, a lot of it was about me reflecting on what I wanted as a young person who was bright, who wanted to make a difference, but didn't quite know which way to go, but was very open if I could just find someone who would help me along the way. And so that is kind of the way I show up at work. And the one thing I want to know first is, what do you want to achieve? So it wasn't always about what I want. I had a thing I wanted because I had a job description that I put out. And I'm looking for a person to do this. But what I needed to know was, if you become a member of my team, what is it that you're looking to get out of this? Because then from that point on, if I've identified that they have the skills that I want to do this particular job, then it also has to do what they need. Because if it doesn't, then we fail. And so there was always a conversation in the beginning with them about, tell me where you're trying to go and what you want to do. And then there were touch points in between the years. So we would have like monthly meetings. And okay, so how is this internship going? Are you getting what you need out of the deal? Tell me what you've learned. What would you like to see more of? And so there's this developing trust, which is such a key element to help people grow. People will not listen to you if they do not trust you, even if you have the key and the answer. And so developing the trust piece was important. If I said I was going to do something, do what I say. And I will say that I think one of the things I think from a leadership standpoint is leaders have to be concerned about their people. One of the things I see is people not concerned about their people. They just are concerned about this goal that they set. And I just don't believe that you have to lead in that way. I believe you can lead and you can reach your organizational goals and also care about the goals of the people that you lead and serve. And so though I feel like that's where, if I had to say there was a difference, or where I feel like I have an edge, if there was a thing, an edge in leader, why someone should come and work with me, because I care about you and I want to see you win. But you also have to care about me and want to see me win. And so we have to work consistently and communicate on getting there. And that's the difference. And I tell you what, I've had a great time working with young people because they're brilliant. But they just have to be allowed.
Yeah.
Allow the space to share, to grow.
Yeah, that symbiotic relationship.
Yes.
Symbiotic, beneficial relationship.
Yes.
But also, creating that, just continuing to create that opportunity and give that that trust piece. The way you laid it out was perfect. But we hear a lot of coaches talk like that, where the goal is stated at the end, but the goal, you achieve the goal through the people and through their success, not because of your practice great or because of you do this, but because you helped develop the person and they had the drive to come to practice and they had the drive to get better. They are the ones that will lead this team, this program, this university, this conference forward.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, I'm glad you said that because it also brings me to another thought. You talked about from coaching. So from my coaching side and playing basketball, I always had this thought about who's in control of the team. So I remember when I transitioned from, player to assistant coach to head coach, and you have students who will say things like, Coach won't let me play. Coach won't let me do this. Coach won't let me do things. Yeah. And I was like, but Coach, you're giving Coach a whole lot of power. I remember as a player, there were times where I just knew what to do and I just did it, and Coach was going to have to ask for forgiveness because I knew based on my skill set, the situation we were in, I was the person that needed to make the play. There was no time I called to tell me what needed to happen. I knew as a dedicated member of this team and a person who is intricately involved in making sure that we achieve our success, that I just had to step up. And I had to do my job at the best of my ability because my team needed me to do this thing. And so I've always subscribed to, I am in control of this, not my coach. I just have to decide to show up in the way I'm supposed to show up. So inherently, when I get into a leadership role, I see my team like they're like teammates. And we talk about our big picture goal. And each one of the team members has a specific gift or skill that helps us to achieve that goal. And I would feel some kind of way if I had to call a timeout to say, hey, you're the person that does the great pictures. I have to tell you to actually take the pictures. We need pictures for social. Why would I have to tell you to do something that you're clearly good at? Now, I may remove you if you don't do your job, and then they will go and say, well, the AD, the coach, the leader doesn't trust me. It's like, well, no, you're just not performing and doing your job at the best level you can. And so there's always this conversation about who's in control. Is it the boss? Or is it the people who are doing the work? And I would always say the person with the ball in their head is the person in control. And that ain't the coach.
So doesn't have the ball. If the coach has the ball in their hand, there's a problem. Yeah.
And so helping, what I see happen is the successful teams. The successful teams have ownership, and they believe that if the ball's in their court and I have the ball in my hand, that I'm in control, not my coach. Now, if we are in relationship and we have trust, then my coach should be able to trust me and the decisions that I'm going to make, even though the coach doesn't have the ball. They just going to stand to the side and be yelling, ah! Providing insight, right? There are things that coach can see in a different way that I can't see on the court, and vice versa. So there has to be the trust between one another. If coach is yelling and they're trying to give me a signal for some reason that I understand why, it's not they're just fussing, they see something I don't see. But there are these times where, coach, but you don't see what I see either. Trust me. But you have to earn that trust. And so having conversations with people who want to work on teams. And I think it's important because when we leave college sports, we move into the real world. And the real world is still a bunch of different groups of people on teams trying to figure out how to solve problems. It's no different from being on the court, which means that the same principles apply. Even though I'm not the person that has the title, if I am a writing specialist on the team, I have a clear role that needs to be done well for this organization to tell its story and for us to shine in a market, right? If that's what we're trying to do. The same principles apply. You have to be really good, and people have to trust that what you bring to the table is going to help us achieve our goal. And when you drop the ball, people are going to feel some kind of way about it, and they need to be able to say those things so that we can be accountable. We can figure out how to course correct and continue to move forward. Like, this is all part of life. And so I just think it's about how you view who has the power. I have always believed that I have the power. I've never believed that my boss tells me what to do or anybody tells me what to do. You tell me what you want, and then I am responsible for doing what you have asked. And I will check in. I will ask, here's what you said, here's what I've done. Am I going in the right direction? I'll do checkpoints. But I've never shown up on a job or any opportunity thinking that someone else controlled my fate. I control my fate based on how I show up. And I would say that to players. I was like, you could change your coach's mind. You just need to show up. And then they look at me like,
ain't nothing to say.
I'm just saying that coach is not going to put someone in a game that every day turns the ball over. You have not. Do something different. Change your behavior. Your coach will change their decision. If your coach doesn't change their decision, then coach is going to look bad, and that could potentially have coach in a different position. So I'm telling you, I know coach doesn't want to lose their job, which means that I know they're making the best decisions based on behaviors, consistent behaviors. And so we have to really think about who is really in control, who really has the power. Is it really coach or is it you?
Seems like you put a lot, that metaphor, you've nailed that metaphor. So I'm going to be thinking about that for a long time, about who has the ball, and I'm going to hope that it's me.
I'm just saying.
So I want to transition into the conference.
Okay.
The move to the HBCUAC.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier, you laid out 4 strategic pillars for the conference. Brand identity, which plays into the renaming.
Yes.
Membership growth, strategic partnerships, and financial stability.
Yes.
The brand identity piece. We were talking earlier, the move to HBCUAC away from GCAC. I had said kind of is so clean and defined that it opens up a bunch of opportunities that because there's no explanation needed. You're not saying, where are these schools located? Do I know what this acronym stands for? And I know exactly what the HBCUAC stands for.
Yeah.
So what has been the business impact, the tangible impact that you've seen in the last few months, since you've fully, I guess, launched, from changing the name?
Well, again, people know who we are and we're clear. And there are the conversations now. Like, I'm getting reached out to. People are saying, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about you. And I want to share with you what we're doing to see if there's synergy, right? All of good partnerships start with a conversation. But now that we have a clear mission, we've got a name, people can start connecting the dots. That volume, again, has increased. I think I'm meeting with 2 to 3 people a week now. Just trying to vet what these opportunities look like. Is this a good fit for us? Is it a good fit for them? What are you trying to achieve with the partnership? So that's been pretty exciting. I feel like in the next year or so, we'll definitely see some, what I would see benefits from some of these conversations. They don't happen quickly, so you've got to do the exploratory stuff, and we've got to make sure we're clear on what we're trying to achieve. So it does take some time still to get to signing a dotted line or signing a partnership. But again, starting from scratch and trying to build a prospect list and build potential partnerships takes time. And so I'll say that this particular transition with the brand identity has been very helpful in accelerating more of that conversation.
Has, on the other side maybe, the definition of HBCUAC, while the league was an HBCU conference, as you think about expansion, maybe limits who your potential pool is.
No,
do you think it does?
No, and I say that because the HBCU conference will always probably be majority HBCUs.
Correct, yes.
We didn't start out that way, and I think the critical piece from a development part is we were a group of schools from the Gulf Coast states. That's why we were initially the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference. We were only in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. After Hurricane Katrina, all of 6 of the 10 schools left, and it left the 4 HBCUs. So in 2010, from 2010 until now, we've been operating as a group of HBCUs, but we didn't understand it from the marketing side of it. Okay, so once I decided that, I was like, well, I mean, you've got the 4 of the HBCU conference, and they're doing all these things. And when I would say, well, we're an HBCU conference too, and they'd be like, what's the name of your conference? And I'd say the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, and they were just always really confused. But then I'd have to start naming the schools. It's like, oh, well, I know your schools. So when you look in the HBCU market, because HBCU has its own market, right? It's a niche market inside of all of sports and entertainment. And I'm like, well, we got to figure out how we can also get into that number. How do we get people to start associating our conference with the other four? Because that's important. We're 43 years old now. Again, as an HBCU collective, 14 years, okay? But we've got to start talking about ourselves. We got to start telling stories differently about who we are in order to attract some of those potential partnerships and to play in the space. So this was definitely a game about, from a business standpoint, how do we compete? How do we keep showing up and saying, well, we're here too? You know?
Right.
How do we do that when I'm not in 3 states anymore? I'm in 8 states, in 1 U.S. territory. And one of the identifiers is we are a group of HBCUs. So, I mean, while we are a group of HBCUs, that doesn't preclude a non-HBCU school not to apply if they were interested in what we're trying to do in terms of developing a great experience for student athletes. So, again, I mean, we are where we are. We're excited about where we are because we believe now, again, people know that there are 5 HBCU conferences, and we're excited about that because now we are known in the market, which is just the first step. And now it's about continuing to grow out what our championship experiences will look like. Just giving the kids a good experience and being able to eventually, hopefully, the other piece I'm working on is how do we develop a revenue model that will give money back to the schools. So that's the other piece when I talked about conference stability or financial stability for the conference. The conference needs to be sustainable financially. And so that's the other part of that. Well, how do you do that if you are not in tune with the larger market? So, yeah, it's exciting.
So, as you think about, you mentioned the other 4 HBCU conferences.
Yes.
How have you leaned on them as you evaluate membership changes, partnerships? You mentioned kind of building out that prospect list of people. I imagine there's some crossover there that you can tap into, or even just kind of leading this in your current role. How do you lean on them?
Oh man, so let me tell you, I love to talk about Jackie McWilliams Parker at the CIAA. I will always say, and anytime I have an opportunity to say it, she is the standard. And I have watched, they have the oldest tournament, like the oldest of all the conferences. They were the ones that were doing the big tournament first. And so what they have done with that basketball championship, which actually is hosted right here in Baltimore, like, it's been just unbelievable in terms of how they were able to get all the schools on board, alumni, students, fans. I mean, it is a cultural event now. Like, it's huge. And so when I spoke to my presidents about this vision about building this conference, I said, what if we could do the same thing that the CIAA has done on the East Coast with that group of HBCUs, if we could do that in the Deep South?
That's a vision.
It's a vision. Oh my gosh. So my presidents, of course, again, I've talked about HBCU being its own niche space, even in higher ed, just in general. There are other circles that those presidents are collaborating and working with each other. And so they're familiar. They know, because their colleague presidents over there, they may have been invited to the tournament. And they're like, this would be really good if we could do that. And so I will say, being able to watch Jackie from afar really take that tournament to where it is, it's just been amazing and a great picture for us to see, well, here's what it could look like when we've realized it, right? When we've gotten all the pieces together. And so I've been really very grateful for her friendship as a fellow commissioner. I remember, I think when she sent me a gift, she sent me a nice little, like a Wonder Woman bracelet. It was really sweet. When I think when I took the job full time, she sent me a nice little gift and just kind of encouraged me. And I get text messages from her here and there. saying, hey, just checking in on you. So it's been amazing to have her as a colleague. Same with Sonia and I have had. She has Jackie connected all of the women commissioners in a group text. So we have like a little group chat. And I've had the opportunity to get connected to Sonia at the MEAC. And there are a couple other, Portia, Danielle, and Sharika. That's our crew, the Lady Commissioner group.
Yeah.
So it's been really great. She's definitely provided the leadership, I would say sisterhood, and being able to vet opportunities. And hey, I got this thing. Can I ask you about, like, have you had this situation and how you handled it? So I'm really grateful to have that support.
For sure.
Yeah.
I guess two last questions here. You mentioned, I feel like I have to ask this question. You mentioned the setting the goal of trying to recreate what the CIAA has done right here in Baltimore, in the Deep South. Walk me through where we sit, I guess, right now, because I can see the vision. I can 100% see it, and it makes all the sense in the world.
Yes.
But I guess where
are we in that process
now, and what do you see as the biggest hurdles maybe to getting to that goal?
So we got our first title sponsor for the basketball championship. So we signed a great partnership with Hope Credit Union. CEO Bill Bynum, just an amazing human being, and has just done amazing work in the financial space for Black and brown people. Let me just say, he's amazing. So they were our first title sponsor. So you got to have somebody to believe in you and give you some money.
Yes.
Okay, so we've done that. We need about 4 more people to come in. So I'm putting my teaser out there. Anybody watching and listening, we're looking for 4 more partners. For basketball. The second part of that is we have identified Visit Tuscaloosa as our city where we're hosting basketball. It's the midway point, we feel like, between
geographically.
And it just so happens that we have Stillman College, who's in Tuscaloosa. So we've got them as our bid or our host for the next 2 years. So we're excited because we have somewhere we're going to be home, and that we're working collaboratively with that team. So the third thing I would say in terms of where we've got to do is we've got to mobilize people. So if I had to say what was the biggest challenge, well, now from a organization standpoint, all of our schools have to really be invested in really building up the excitement around their teams coming to the championship. And so I recently had meetings with the enrollment management teams of all of our schools, the cheer dance coaches for all our schools, and the alumni development leaders for all of our schools to say, hey, here's this big picture thing we're got to do, and we need your help. And so we've been having conversations for the last couple of months trying to figure out what is one thing each of those groups can do that would help us get people to Tuscaloosa. Because the bigger piece, the reason why CIAA has done such a great job is because they can mobilize. They've mobilized fan bases and people. They're coming in droves to the event. We've got to do the same thing. And so if I had to say what my biggest challenge is right now, it's us figuring out what is going to be the way we're going to mobilize people.
I'll get you out of here on this last question. And this is very open. You can take it however you see. Okay. What is the biggest challenge or opportunity that you are facing as we sit here right now? It can be professional. It can be HBCUAC. It can be, some of the things you're doing, whether it's professional development. We were talking earlier, you're writing a book. We can go any number of directions.
Oh, man. Okay, I have to really think about it. So, yeah, I am about to launch this book, so that's going to be interesting. I don't know where that's going to go. I feel like it's going to be big. So maybe it's that. But I think it is really, again, it's trying to make sure I keeping people focused on the big goal. Sometimes when you're trying to do something really big, there is a constant need to continue to tell people, hey, here's what we're doing. So sometimes I will say that as a leader, I get tired of telling people what we were going to do, and I don't want to do it. It's required, though. You have to continue to keep that goal in front of people. So I would say that sometimes it's like, just got to keep saying the same thing over and over again. But it's the only way you're going to keep people mobilized and keep people on the same page. So we're going to make it, though,
It's almost like you need a big sign.
Yeah.
Just carrying around.
I feel like I need to do a big sign. I'm going to figure it out. But Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest challenge, but on the flip side of it,
It's also the biggest opportunity.
oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
It's because when we do it, and I'm saying when we do it because I always get it done. Like I always find a way. I get the right people, we get together, we get excited, and we get it done. But when we get it done, people gonna be like, I didn't even believe it was possible. It's like, but I told you. It's just you just have to not give up. People sometimes will challenge you and make you want to give up, and you just can't give up if you believe it's possible. Then your actions need to be aligned with what that possibility looks like.
That's the perfect message to end on. Dr. Baker Barnes, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.